to another edition of Swanzey Then and Now. I'm your host, Jody Turner, and our co-host is Lee Dunham, the historian of Swanzey. Well, technically, but anyway, thank you for joining us today. We are going to be talking about the steamer and the West Swanzey Historical Society. Is it Swanzey Historical Society or West Swanzey?
The name is Swanzey Historical Museum.
Okay. All right.
A little tough to say, but
right. So, why are we doing this show, Lee? What do you find interesting about this?
Well, the 1901 Amoskeag Steamer that Swanzey has, bought it brand new, arrived here in December of 1901, is pretty much the premier piece of equipment that is in the Swanzey Historical Museum, and its whole story, of its resurrection from out in the barn. It was actually the last place that I know it was in the barn behind Wickham Hall. So
yeah,
it's kind of an interesting story.
And how did it come about that we were able to save it?
Well, the first piece of that puzzle is when it got relegated to the scrap, if you will. There was no room for it in the firehouse. So the town voted to give it to the West Swanzey Fire Company instead of sell it, which is what you do generally today. And what that did is, kept it around in barns and sheds here, there, and everywhere for a number of years when it was still active and being used. But when it was used, 4th of July, they had a celebration in West Swanzey on what they called the Common, which is the grass area by the West Swanzey Community Church. At that point, it was the Baptist Church. And a young person by the name of Charlie Hannigan, who lived just up the road on High Street at the time, would come down and see this. And what they'd do is they'd fire it up. And if you've never seen a steam engine work, the thing about a steam engine, a fire truck today makes noise, right? The engine running and everything. So, but a steam engine, to make steam, you have a fire. It heats a pot of water, a boiler, a tank of water that makes steam that goes up through and works the valves, which turn an engine, which turns the valves on the other side, the pistons on the other side that pump the water.
Interesting.
So it sits there and it does this. It just bumps up and down, up and up and down. Doesn't make a lot of noise, a little hissing here and there. They pull the whistle, you'll hear that like a train whistle.
And so that makes the pressure for the water.
Right.
And so where would they get the water from?
The water would be either water holes around town, or there were some cisterns or tanks in the ground, or the river they could take it from. Yeah. And this was unique because this steamer, you could take it from either side, and you could actually deliver water from either side. And could you
only have one hose, or could you have multiple hoses?
It could do multiple hoses.
Yeah. So Charlie had something to do with saving this? And tell me a little bit, before we get into that, who was Charlie Hannigan?
Well, Charlie Hannigan grew up, obviously, in West Swanzey, like I said. So the Hannigans are deep-rooted in Swanzey. I knew him as a resident of Swanzey Center, just past the library, on the same side of the road. He married Margaret Piper, and Margaret Piper is into the Kingsbury family, and he ended up, in my time, as the president of Kingsbury Machine Tool.
Well, that reminds me, because my dad had mentioned Charlie Hannigan before, and I know that he said that Charlie was one of the best guys. He was somebody that really stood up for all of the employees, and he had a lot of good things to say about him.
Yeah, Charlie was a really good guy, and he was the guy you wanted in your camp when you needed to raise funds. He knew a lot of wealthy people because of the circle he was in, and he just had that way. He'd ask you for some money if he thought you could give it. He was influential in bringing the potash bowl back when it burned in 1978.
Oh,
so
yep.
I think that was like $70,000 needed to be raised to do that.
Wow.
And then, of course, he raised the funds to build the museum.
Right.
But to do the museum, in comes the steamer, which as a young kid of about 10, 12, 13, 14, he watched that steamer every 4th of July. They'd bring it out, and the old guys that still know how to use it, let's see, I think it's Harry Worcester, Chet Seaver, and Ray Bartlett.
So these guys are all still around?
No, they're all gone.
These are all gone. Okay.
You know, when they went to restore this in 1982, 83, Harry Worcester was the only one still alive, and he didn't live to see it actually come to full fruition.
Right.
So.
But it is, if you've ever been to the museum, it is a piece of art. It doesn't even look like it's been used. I mean, honestly, it's so shiny and beautiful. They did such a great job restoring it.
Yeah, and the story is, you know, Charlie had been pushing buttons for a number of years. You know, can we get this restored? Can we get this restored? But nothing ever happened until 1982. The firefighters over in West Swanzey pulled it out, put it on a trailer, and brought it up to the Firemen's Parade in Keene in October. And there Charlie saw his childhood, you know, dream. And he went over and asked him, you know, what are you going to do with this? We were thinking that we'd like to try to restore it for next year's 250th anniversary parade, which is in July. October 82, parade in July of 83, so less than a year.
And this is Swanzey's 250th, yes.
Yeah. So, but we don't have a place to do this during the winter, is what they told Charlie. He fixed that, because before that parade, well, you know, when the parade was over, that steamer was put into Kingsbury Machine's garage. And that started this whole tale of, first of all, you got to find out somebody that knows and find out as much as you can about this, which was difficult. He ran into, you know, he got leads, went to Manchester, tried to find out what he could. Not a lot. But he got a lead on a book about the workings of Amoskeag steam pumpers. But he couldn't find the book. Well, if you're an old-time Swansea person, you walked into Wilbur's to do your grocery shopping, possibly, or you did Gamarlo's in West.
And where was Wilbur's?
Yeah, Wilbur's was right on Route 12 at that point.
And did everybody love going to Wilbur's? I did.
If you liked whoopie pies, or let's say,
my aunt used to make the potato salad there. Yeah.
So, Charlie Saunders on the back.
Anyway, I'm sorry. We're digressing. Sorry.
So anyway, he was in Wilbur's and he ran into Carl Snow, who lived in North Swansea. And Carl was a retired Kingsbury employee, and he told Carl what he was doing. He's trying to restore the steamer, and he's looking for this particular book, and he gave the name to Carl. Well, this I guess is Carl, because he walked away. He said, yeah, okay. He walked away. And he later contacted Charlie with, here, I have a copy of this book. And that brought Carl into the project, and Carl was very instrumental in helping restore this, along with Clifton Hills, who was a steam, you know, he used to have a steamboat, and steam-powered boat that he ran way back, and I've got pictures of that on the website. So a lot of people came together in this, along with a lot of people from the fire department, to do the little grunt work of sanding all these pieces. Because we've got pictures, and well, when you look at the pictures of the steamer, I mean, it is nickel plated, and it's large, the boiler and everything.
It is. You know, Lee, let's look at some of those pictures, okay? If we can take a look at some of those, then you can explain a little bit more about the steamer and things like that. Because people may or may not have gotten to the museum before, but if they do get a chance, it's right near Brownsfield down in Swansea, West Swansea, and I don't know what the hours are exactly. I know that you're part of that
I'm
as well.
on the board, and at this point with the pandemic,
COVID, right.
we're discussing how and if we're going to.
Yeah, but in the future, even if it's not this year, this will be over at some point.
Right,
So,
and the normal hours, we run in the summertime to about
like
Columbus Day.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so what do we see here?
There is Clifton Hills on top. He's adjusting one of the oilers, I believe, on that. Now you see the steamer that is actually restored at that point. They're just trying to fine tune it to get it.
Yep.
There's Carl Snow.
And that's part of the steamer as well?
Oh yeah.
And what would the curve go over? Is that where the horses?
That's where your seat would be.
Oh, I see.
Later on, because you see the boilers on the back still, and the tank.
That looks like Charlie.
There's Charlie himself on the completed and restored steamer with horses on front.
Yeah.
That's by Kingsbury Machine. That's like July of '83. There you see some steam coming out of it. And they're still, like I said, they're doing the fine tuning on it. They actually pumped water with it.
Yeah. As you can see the water going in and out in the front there.
Yeah. Now.
And that must be the crew.
This is a crew of a lot of the old timers. Arthur Knight's the first one. Charlie Hannigan, Don Duty, Jack. I'll get his name wrong, trying to do it real quick. Jack. Well, anyway. Then Clifton Hills, and I think Carl Snow, and then Pat Gilbo. Out of that whole picture, the only one alive is Pat. And Pat's my age, and I went to school with, so I'm hopefully going to get him to be able to sit down and talk a little bit.
Yeah, and maybe we could go out on location and maybe do a little bit more talking there too. Yeah. So this is what it looked like originally, or?
No. This is 1969.
Okay.
Arthur Perry, you might know.
You know the name.
Mr. Perry, who just passed away about a year ago. He took pictures of it. This is 1969. This is what it looked like in '69.
Wow.
So, the stripes on the wheels are not there anymore. The boiler, if you really look at that picture, the boiler's a little bit chipped and dinged and whatever. They thought there was cracks in the boiler. This is a picture on parade day with as many of the people that actually worked on it as they could get together. But
looks like a lot of firemen.
A lot of firemen, old firemen. Bernie Lambert, Bernard Lambert is right there with the hat. So and actually I can see Chief Henry Johnson there too. So this was sort of a little joking thing they did up at the, this is by the, it's between the old fire station and the new fire station in Keene on Vernon Street.
Yeah.
And they had all those are West Swanzey firefighters. Not sure whether they would have actually worked with the steamer or not, but they're all Victor Patnode, relative of mine. It's up on top on the right-hand side. And they took that picture of them. I was trying to identify as many of those as I can. I haven't got, there's Harold Martin in there, and I think there's a few others. That's where Pat comes in. I think he can probably identify more.
Yeah. That looks like Kingsbury's.
There's Kingsbury's again. And
it looks like it gave them a lot of joy.
Like I said,
this is little boys. This is little boys playing with big toys.
Well, yeah. When you look at this, I mean, Charlie did a whole presentation. There it is, sitting in the museum. It's sort of a prominent place for it. It has come out a couple times for parades, but. And one time it actually worked. Clifton Hills actually ran it next to Rosie. I don't know if you're familiar with Keene's Aaron Fox pumper, but it ran those two side by side. It was amazing.
So they have one as well?
They don't have a steamer. The Aaron Fox is 19, I'll get the year wrong, 26 or 28.
But could we have a competition?
Well, I'm sure they could. But Here's your old crew that was out there on the 4th of July. Harry Worcester, Chet Seaver, and Raymond Bartlett. That's what the young Charlie, as a kid would grow up. They actually spray water over what they called the Baptist church at the time. It's now changed. And he also talked about one of those guys would take the little kids over and have them put their hand up against the stream of water. Now, just barely touching it. So you could feel how hard the stream of water coming out of an 1 1/8" nozzle, straight bore nozzle, that's what those were. It was like a rock.
Yeah.
And you didn't put your hand like this, it would,
And the water didn't come out hot. It came out just like a normal temperature. It was just the pressure of the steamer that gave you the water pressure.
You think of today and everything's done with a diesel engine or whatever, or a gas engine. The engine is the part that makes things go round and round and round. And then on the other side of it, it's just water in and water out.
Yeah.
There was no tank on that per se. Like a fire truck today has tank water that we use to put out a fire.
Exactly.
That had nothing. You had to have a source
water
of water.
Source. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. So, were there any big fires that you recall that the steamer was used? I mean, not that you were around then for all of that. You were probably young.
I wasn't around.
You were very young at that time, I would think.
But one of the fires that it did go to that I can tell you about is the 1913 fire at the town hall. Dr. Hopkins, who lived right on the corner, heard it clanging by his house, and later found out that the town hall had burned down.
Where was the fire station at that time that it was housed in? Was that in West Swansea?
Yes.
So they had to go all the way from West Swansea. That's it's a long ways, really.
Well, it's 2 miles roughly.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm saying by horse, that's quite a ways. Yeah.
At that point in time, there was a station in Swansea Center, but they had the equivalent of a gigantic soda acid fire extinguisher.
Yep.
That's what they had.
Right.
So that went for as long as you had water, and then you had to fill it, put more acid to it, turn it over, start it over again.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So there was no help for that. In the days we're talking, large house fires were very difficult.
Right. Right. And I'm sure that there was a lot of large houses back then too. I mean, when you look at some of the houses in the area.
My years in the fire service, I mean, there was in the 60s and 70s before I got on, a number of barn fires and large house or abandoned houses and whatever. Just a lot of them went down back then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, any of the barns and things that we have left in Swansea, we are so lucky. Even like the one that's out by the airport that is now offices. Page Farm. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so nice to have big barns like that.
That is actually their second barn.
Oh, is it?
Because the first one burned.
Yeah.
Look at that someday, and you'll see the foundations closer to the road.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
For the old barn. So.
Yeah. 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 So, what are some of the other things that they have at the museum? Were there any other pictures that you wanted to look at of the? I don't know if there was any more.
Yeah. The museum has a number of things from Denman Thompson, who you could arguably say is our most famous resident, and that's
the Marauders.
The Marauders.
The outfits that they had there.
They have a bunch of stuff from the Scarlet Marauders.
Yeah.
And the history of them, we have to do a show, and hopefully we can get Leon.
And can you guys please help us?
Yeah.
We need to know people that were in the Marauders. I know that when I was in high school, it was a big deal. I wasn't part of it, but I know it was everywhere. They were.
I mean, some people don't know the beginnings of it, and I've had conversations with people on Facebook about it because I didn't know it.
Right.
And when I found the first picture of the West Swansea Girls Fife and Drum Corps, I had to ask somebody. Now, actually, the person I asked was Jerry Bussier. Jerry, what's going on with this?
Yeah.
Well, Clara Gamarlo started this, and I got the story of, it starts off in, 41? and a lot of the
Wartime?
wartime,
Right.
a lot of men out of town, you know, they're gone.
Yep.
So Clara had been in a band where she came from a Mass, and she wanted to get that going up here. She started the girls' fife and drum. Now, I had somebody say, "That was never a fife and drum." Yeah, it was.
We got
in the
pictures.
beginning. I've got a
Yeah.
couple of pictures of
Yeah.
it, but I also have, in the museum, there is a thing that she wrote about the beginnings of it. And the fifes were very cheap at that point.
Yeah.
So drums, fifes. And then they started into the bugles, and it changed from the West Swansea Girls to the West Swansea Drum and Bugle Corps. And then later on, as she backs out and Leonard Ruffle comes in, now that's the Scarlet Marauders. And these guys won awards.
They were good.
They won awards in the New England region like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we should have a reunion at the museum of everybody that was in the Marauders, or in any of those
That might
groups.
not, you know, as Wickham Hall comes back online, and we've got a fairly nice place to do it.
Right.
That would be a nice thing to do.
Yeah, I just think that, you know, like, I love Old Home Day, and we'll talk a little bit about Old Home Day and some other
Wow.
shows that are coming up.
Speaking about Old Home Day,
yes.
you know, when this for the 250th parade, which is Old Home Day, the Marauders, that was their last reunion where they played.
Wow.
And they had a float that had some of the original girls
Yeah.
on it.
Wow.
That were in that Girls Fife
Yeah,
and Drum,
that's
1941.
probably not going to happen now. I mean, not the
Yeah.
fact that it's 40 years later now, really.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to have some of these people together, because I know that a lot of these people are going to be older.
Yeah.
And I just think that it would be nice for people to be recognized for the things that they've given to the town of Swansea and what they've enjoyed.
And, you know, you think about what else we have at the museum there too, and there's a stagecoach. Now, the stagecoach is not, you know, native to Swansea, but it ends up in the Browns' possession. So, and it was up in their barn for years. It actually did see service in the 200th parade, 1933.
Well, you know, people don't realize that we did at one time have a stagecoach route
Yes.
that would come through Swansea.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much that people don't know about, you know, until they start looking at your Facebook page, which is called what?
Swansea Old Photographs.
Swansea Old Photographs, and then they can contact us through the studio or through our email, which is at the end. But, you know, these are things that if we don't talk about them now, that these will get missed. And I really would like to see things out there so that our kids and our grandchildren can share some of these historical events and activities.
Yeah, it's, you know, the history, I wish I had gotten involved earlier. I'm one of those rare people who had a great-grandfather. He lived to be 105. I could have talked to him until he was 100, probably 101 or 2, and gotten rational thought from him.
But we got busy. We didn't ask.
You didn't think about that
No,
stuff back
no.
then. But, you know, and what I'm trying to do is try to get as much of this stuff out there that, you know, so that it can be at least preserved somewhat.
Right.
But, you know, I'm only transferring stories that I've been told.
Right.
There's not a lot of first-hand knowledge that I've got. So.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that I've talked with when we've had gatherings at Wickham Hall or different little events in Swansea. You know, there's just so many people that I would love to interview. And if you are interested in being interviewed, let me know, because I will make time for you. But as people age, they have stories to tell. And if we don't listen to their stories, or if we don't sit down with our fathers and mothers and grandparents, then this will get lost. And I know my dad will say the same thing. You know, I wish I had.
Yeah.
Because, you know, at the time you're young, you're busy, you don't think about these things, but these stories are things that need to be told. So.
So, I mean, talking about Charlie Hannigan.
Yeah, we got to do another show on this because we have too much more to talk about.
But talking about him, he wrote a whole like 8-9 page or so about this whole restoration process. He ended up with signing it and saying a grown-up kid who saw his dream come true. So that's what that steamer meant to him.
Yeah.
It's a dream come true.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we don't know why we do things or what's going to affect us later on in our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we have been talking with Lee Dunham, who has a lot of information to share, but I know you have a lot of information to share too. And so I hope that you'll contact us or just grab us someplace when you see us out in public and just let us know you're interested in doing something. You can produce your own shows here at Cheshire TV as well. But this is just something to get the conversation started, and we hope that you'll join us for other shows as they come up in the future. So, Lee, anything else that you'd like to encourage people to do? I know that Swanzey has a website that you can get hours of different things. It's listed right there, swanzeynh.gov. Once COVID is over, hopefully, things will open up a little bit, and maybe we can have some reunions and do a few more gatherings.
Yeah, and hopefully the museum, we're going to just be discussing that shortly. So see if it will come back in some way, shape, or form. The trouble with museums, it's all volunteer,
right?
And elderly people. So it's tough.
It is tough. It is tough. Yeah. So again, today we've been in Swanzey Then and Now with Lee Dunham and Jody Turner. If you have information that you'd like to pass on to us, please follow up and get back to us, because we'd love to share it too. And it doesn't have to be Lee and me sitting here all the time. You can come in, and it's not that hard. You can do it. I know you can. All right. Thank you, Lee. We'll see you guys soon. And this is Swanzey Then and Now.